Welcome to your yoga session. Today, grab a strap of some sort. I'm using just an infinity scarf. This will work. A strap, a belt, a big t-shirt, a towel, anything to help aid you in lengthening the arm to hold on to your leg a little from time to time. So you'll have that nearby, maybe even for your binding behind the back. Some blocks just to give you a little added height and comfort, and maybe a blanket that you can sit on or use to pad your knees. So as you come along and have a seat here with me, find the most comfortable space for you and begin by lifting the shoulders up and rolling them back. Let's do that a couple of times. So we inhale, lift, and exhale, really draw back and relax. Every time you lift up, I want you to also think about getting a little taller and longer through the waist. And then on this last one, just allow your shoulders to relax back. Put a little bit of energy in the space between the shoulder blades to keep them drawn back just a bit. And then let the palms just rest face up on the thighs. As you're closing your eyes, bringing your awareness inward. I'm just starting the practice today with a few deep rounds of breath to bring your awareness to where you are now and to the landscape of your body. Taking a mental assessment, noticing if your upper body feels like you're kind of shrugging your shoulders or if you're rounding forward. And then just pull back slightly. Allow the crown of your head to float up toward the sky. Back of the neck stays long. Check in with the center of the body through your torso and notice if the ribs feel like they're kind of pushing forward. If you feel a little compression in the middle of your back, and pull the rib cage down. Relax through the center of the body, allowing your sit bones to become heavy, your tail toward the floor. The knees just opening to the level that feels comfortable for you. But try to allow tension to release from the hips themselves, so from the joint of the hip. The tongue falling away from the teeth, the face is soft. The breath becomes deeper with each inhale. Even on the exhale, the breath lengthening. Follow that sense of the sensation of relaxation with the inhale all the way down toward the pubic bone, kind of filling up with the air all the way up through the mid-waist, through your back, through the side waist, and eventually up all the way toward the shoulder blades and the sternum. Taking that big 360 breath in, exhale slowly. Two more deep, full, complete breaths. The breath remaining long and full. Let your arms rest down by your sides. With your next exhale, the head falling over to one side. Your eyes can remain closed, just focusing on how you're feeling here. After about 2 to 3 breaths, come back through center. Inhale, exhale, the head falling to the opposite side. Notice if the shoulder, either one of the shoulders, tries to creep up with you. And continue to press the shoulders down, especially the shoulder that you're moving away from. And then begin to move with every breath. Inhale to center. Exhale, head gently falling, as though your ear is just falling right over the shoulder. And continue here about 2 more times each side. Continuing with eyes closed or just a very soft gaze to the floor. more than anything, just focus on the breath here. It's not about the movement as much as the breath then telling you how to move the body. So as the exhale begins to flow out, just let the head fall. Inhale, coming back to center. And as you move the head back to center, take a moment to sit tall, lifting through the chin toward the chest or toward the sky. So not just letting your head fall back. I want you to imagine there's a string right at the center of your chin and it's lifting up and you still have space behind the neck. Just a little reach right here through the front body. And then bring the chin down, keeping that space in the front of the neck as though you're just dropping your chin slightly toward that notch right at the top of your chest. Your rib cage stays relaxed, shoulders relaxed. Coming back to center and looking over the right shoulder, continuing to draw both shoulder blades back slightly. And then over to the opposite side, turning to look over to the left. And back to center again. Inhale, sweeping left arm up as you reach over to the right side. Pause and just let that right elbow soften. If you'd like to take a block, you could even take a block here underneath your arm. You're making sure that this bottom shoulder stays relaxed and that you're not just sinking down into it, and reaching over. So try to reach as long as you can. I mean, as far out as you can, keeping your elbows straight, active through the fingertips. Left hip pressing down to the floor and your left knee opening up. We'll take 3 more breaths. You could even look down slightly toward the floor if it tends to bother your neck to have your head in this lateral position. And then with your next breath in, sweeping up and moving to the opposite side. So again, if you want to take a block, you could have your elbow or forearm at any level. Remember, the block is mobile, so you can always lift it up to a higher level. So pick the spot that feels right for you. And if you're just beginning your movements for the day, or if you've been seated quite a bit or just doing something that was somewhat repetitive, this may feel a little tight or like there's a little restriction at first. But the longer that we're here, ideally, the more we'll start to relax into the space. Just continue to breathe deeply. This breath will let the body know that it's okay just to stay here and to open up. Taking 2 more deep breaths. You can always look down slightly. Notice that bottom shoulder. Let it relax back. And as you move back up, finding hands to the knees. Inhale, lifting through the chest. Exhale, rounding, pulling back, moving into seated cat-cow. So just move as fluidly as you can here, gently coming forward, arching through the back, and then rounding through the back. Inhale, moving forward. Exhale, gently drawing back. 3 more with your breath. Continuing to find that softness through the face and the jaw. And last breath here. Exhale, rounding out. Back to center. Taking the left hand across to the right knee. Right hand moves behind you, maybe even on a block. If you're elevated, sitting up high, you can place your hand on the block behind you. Now be mindful that you're not moving over to your right side. So lift up, sit back, and take a breath in. Exhale, rotate a little more, pulling that right shoulder back. And then maybe turning and looking over the back shoulder. Staying for 4 more full rounds of breath. So every inhale, think about getting taller, getting more lifted. Exhale, possibly moving further back with your twist, but keep your hips nice and level. And that last full breath. Coming back to center with an inhale as you unwind. Exhale, rotating. Find your rotation first, then sit taller. Lift with an inhale. Exhale, gently turning as though you're slightly sitting back into that right sit bone a little bit more. And try not to pull on the leg that you're holding on to. So we're just placing the hand across somewhere. It doesn't even have to be on the knee. So somewhere across that you can gently press into, but not so much pull up on. So the last 3 or so breaths here. So breathing deeply, more of that breath may be moving more toward the outer parts of the ribs as we're twisting. And coming back to center. Begin to walk the hands forward. So this is where those blocks could come in handy once more. So maybe it's the hands to blocks or your elbows to blocks. They do move. You can go to any level that feels right for you, or hands to floor as you reach forward. Again, any level. So this could be hands, elbows, or blocks, or all the way to the floor. So walk over to the right and reaching through that left hand. Does not matter how far over you are bent, just continue to reach and breathe and come back to center and walk it back over now to the opposite side. Right hand reaching out. And then back to center. As you walk it up, just lean back for a moment, placing your hands behind you. You'll bring your feet forward and just dropping the knee to the floor as the opposite knee drops out. Okay, so one knee moving in, one knee moving out, just a little bit more hip mobility here. Gently moving side to side. So I'm just resting kind of on the fingertips here, not too far back with a lean, just to where you're comfortable. And the feet are wider than the shoulders. We continue here. Let's take 2 more breaths. So here's the tricky part. I want you to come back into cross-legged position, but come into cross-leg with the opposite leg in first. Now, if you didn't notice which leg was in first before, you're gonna move into the space that feels, well, probably awkward. So if you tend to always bring your dominant leg, for me, it's usually my right leg is in front or on top. So I switch and I bring the left leg in the front, okay, or on top. So whichever one that is for you, sitting up tall, inhale. Let's exhale, reach over to the side, not staying quite as long this time. We'll move with every breath. You can still use your blocks underneath your arms. Exhale. And inhale back to center. Exhale, reaching. And one more time. We'll move into seated twist from here. So taking right arm behind, left arm moving across, possibly even twisting slightly deeper this time. More rotation as you've warmed up, and then to the opposite side. And back to center with a reach forward, walking over to the right, left hand reaching out. Big breath in. Back to center, to the opposite side, right hand reaching out. And back to center. As you walk yourself up, finding a tabletop position. So hands and knees. You could take your blocks toward the top of the mat so they'll be available. You could even place the blanket under your knees, as we'll be on the knees for just a little bit. So feel free to take a little cushion there. Hands underneath the shoulders, knees directly underneath the hips, starting with your basic cat-cow from table. So letting everything fall, just let it relax, and then pressing up, lifting up and hollowing out. Inhale, everything falling down. Gaze is slightly forward, but you still want space behind your neck, just like before when I asked you to lift your chin without compressing your neck. Inhale, gaze is slightly ahead. exhale, rounding up. Press the floor away, even from the tops of your feet, all the way to your fingertips, just pressing everything away from the floor. Okay, so push down to lift up. And we'll take that last one here. Inhale. And exhale, rounding. Good. All right, keeping your left hand planted, actually walk it forward, just maybe about a half a step forward. So as I do that, I'll just follow with it so that the hips maybe slide just slightly more in front of your knee line. Your right hand will sweep up, open up to the right. And we're going to twist and bring it all the way underneath, allowing your face to land on the floor. So the cheek and the temple pressing to the floor, chin slightly drawing down. Keep your hand here. You can stay right here. Shift your hips back to the center if they're moving to the left with you. Try to place weight even back towards your feet. So here you can absolutely just stay here, left hand to the floor. If you want to take a little more open chest approach, we take that left arm up and then just let it drape behind you. So you have a few options there. You do not have to lift your hand away from the floor, but if you'd like to, go ahead and do so. If that's something that feels good for you, if it feels awkward, just keep your left hand down. We'll stay about 4 more rounds of breath here. Softening through the face, through the jaw. One more full breath. Place the left hand back to the floor if you picked it up. I want you to kind of bring that elbow right over your wrist as though you were doing a one-arm push-up. We're going to send the left leg back with the toes turned under. So now lifting up through your core. So imagine almost like you're moving into cat stretch and you're pulling your rib cage up. You're pulling up through the hips and then start to float your left leg. So adding a little more core action here. Still putting weight in that left hand for extra added balance, and your core is super strong. Pushing back through your left foot like you could lengthen the leg out another inch. I'm going to give you a couple of options before you come up. Just know that you can place your left leg back to the mat before you lift up, or if you want to challenge your strength and your core and your balance, keep your left hand to the floor, keep your left leg up, and start to push yourself back up into now a 3-leg table. Very good. All right, we're going to sweep that left leg all the way behind the right leg, toes drop to the floor. Now step your left hand forward toward the top of your mat. Pull up through the center of the body. Start to shift your whole upper body until you can look back and maybe find that foot that's behind you. Feel free to move your right hand back as well if you need a little more space here. The idea is that we're getting a long stretch here on the outside of that left side of your body. Continue to push back through the left heel, left foot, lifting through the center of your core. One more breath. And then from here, keep the leg here. We're going to even out the hands a little and then start to just point through the toes now. Slide back. I'm just running out of space. Slide back so that now you're just at an angle with your left leg still where it started, and we're folding over the front leg. So your forehead to the mat. I will turn. This will be opposite from where you are, mirroring wise. Okay, but I just want to show you from here. We were here. We're just sliding straight back so that we're folding over that front leg. So continue with a few deep rounds of breath here. Oh, intentionally, I'm trying not to lean over into the right hip, so the right hip is not on the floor. I'm just folding over the front leg. Relaxing through the upper body, the shoulders, the face, the chest. Let's take 2 more rounds of breath. As you place your hands to the floor, you start to turn the toes under on the back foot, lift that knee and kind of shift forward off of the toes. Sweep the left leg now all the way out to the left side, even with your hip. Walk the hands forward. So everything is staying in line, just like you would, say, for little puppy. So this is basically just a little puppy with a kickstand. That's what I call it. We're bringing the head down. The hips are staying in line with the knee. So making sure that you're not sending your hips necessarily way back. It's not wrong. It's just that's not what we were looking for here at this time. So you can let your elbows drop to the floor, or you could even support your head with your arms if that feels better for you. Right now the toes are all pointing the same direction, with your left foot pointing to the top of the mat. Same direction as the crown of your head. Let's take one more breath. And then starting to place a little weight towards your arms, your hands, lifting up and walking back. So as you walk back, you can even take a block with you. We're going to walk back, lift up on that right knee. So let's turn slightly. I'm going to turn the toes up toward the sky. If you want a block behind you, go ahead and take it there. You don't have to use it. And we're going to sweep the arms up. Reach right arm over toward left side. So right now I'm just going to place a hand either behind me or even in the front, and it could be on or off a block here. Just reaching over to the side as though you're trying to reach over toward those toes, keeping your left or your right hip nice and level with your right knee. Let's take one more breath. From this gate pose, coming all the way back up. Now from here, go ahead and bring the left leg the rest of the way up to the top of your mat. This is where you can take both of your blocks, and then we will adjust that back knee as needed. So I'm going to turn the toes under, lift the back knee, and just shift it back a couple of times so that your right knee is moving back, your left knee is over the heel. Okay. Staying here, lifting through the chest, deep breath. Take another breath in. Imagine that your right hip is moving slightly up toward your sternum, your pubic bone moving up slightly towards your sternum as your hips are all kind of moving forward at the same time. And taking this next breath, straighten out the front leg, moving into that little runner's lunge or that half split Ardha Hamasana. Moving the hand or the head forward. You can always move your blocks again, any level, hands or elbows or forearms. Now I'm trying not to sit too far back, just kind of moving forward with that hip staying aligned over the knee. Now if you start to round a little too much here, just come back up and try to move forward from your hips. So chest moving forward and the whole torso moving forward from the hip crease. Take two more breaths. Last full breath here. And then just put a little bend in that knee. We'll step it back. Moving back into child's pose. I'm going to set those blocks off to the sides. Big child's pose. Sink the hips back. Reach the hands forward. We'll do the whole movement again on the other side. So taking your left hand up, sweeping up from that table position, we're going to bring it all the way underneath. Thread the needle here. Your right hand can stay on the floor just as you did before, or take the right arm up and let it fall behind you. Try to place the temple and the cheek on the floor with a little slight nod through the neck. Wherever you'd like to stay, whether that hand is on the floor, right hand on the floor or not, just taking deep breaths. So if you have lifted your right hand, go ahead and take the right hand back to the floor if it's not already. Elbow is over the wrist. We're going to press into the right hand as you shoot the right foot back. Pull up through your core, get solid here, and lift that right leg up about even with your hip, maybe slightly higher. Continue to reach back with the right foot. Now remember, your option here is to drop your foot before coming up, or challenging your core and your strength and your balance by pushing into that right hand, coming back up to that three-leg table, and now sweep the left or right foot to the left side. Pull up through the rib cage and the hips. Walk your right hand forward, and then shift your shoulders to look back toward that foot. Good. Now being mindful again, not just sagging here in the middle. There's some action still happening through the center of your body. Taking 2 more breaths. You can move that left hand back further if you'd like. We're trying to keep the head up and not just let it drop. Last breath and come back to center. We'll sweep the right leg all the way out to the side. Toes are pointing to the top of the mat, just straight out from the hip with that leg. And walking the hands forward into that little puppy position. You can be a little more active by lifting your elbows or just resting your elbows to the floor for more passive stretch. I'm taking 2 more rounds of breath. Starting to activate through the arms as you lift up through the chest, walk the hands back, and as you walk back, lifting up to standing on that knee. So again, I'll turn slightly. You can see this right foot, toes are up toward the sky, maybe cushion the heel if needed. We'll take the left arm, reach it up, and then reaching over. So your hand can be on a block here. You can have it resting on the thigh or the leg. Just try not to put weight on it. So I want you to make sure there's no buckling back of your knee and that you're just resting lightly with that right arm. Continue to reach up and over. 1 more breath. And coming back to center. Continue bringing that right foot all the way around to the front of the mat, top of the mat. Adjusting back knee as needed. So if you landed kind of here, I want you to turn those toes under and move your left knee back past that hip line. So your right heel and knee are in line. Deep breath in, pull up through the center of your body as though you're drawing your hip points slightly up and your rib cage is staying relaxed and down. 2 more rounds of breath. And then with your next exhale, shifting your hips up and back and just pulling your toes back with that front leg, moving your chest forward. It does not matter how far you're hinging as long as you are hinging from your hips and not just rounding from your upper body. So I just want you to try to hinge from your hips, lift your hips up as much as you can, meaning as though you could lift your sit bones up a little higher here. Last couple of breaths. With your next breath in, bend that knee. We'll come to standing from here. Just walk your hands forward, turn the toes under, lifting the back knee and stepping forward into forward bend. So hanging here for just a moment. If you've got a blanket still on your mat, you can move it out of your way. We'll bring hands above the knees and come all the way to standing slowly. So as you're standing wide, so I'll be able to actually kind of mirror you from here. So just following the direction that I'm moving is fine. So we're going to take the blocks out pretty wide just so that they're there and available as needed. So pretty wide with your feet. So check it out. If you take your wrist and you take your arms out, if you could draw a line from your wrist to your heel, probably in about the right space. So maybe if they're a little more narrow here, that's going to be a little more tugging on your hamstrings. So we're going to take it out a little bit wider for a nice big wide leg forward bend. It's as wide as you can go. That feels comfortable. With your toes pointing straight ahead or parallel with the outsides of your mat with the pinky toe side. Sweep your arms up, inhale. Put a little softness of your knees, bending the knees slightly, come forward. All the way down toward the mat. If you're not quite reaching the mat, take an object that's nearby or blocks if you've got them to rest your hands on. Try to let yourself fall as much as you can. Whether that's supported or hanging in the air, but making sure that you're not feeling any discomfort if you're hanging. Let's take 2 more rounds of breath. Most of your weight moving forward towards your toes, but your heels and your hips are in the same line. So your sit bones and your heels like they're on a wall. Starting to rise up through your chest, lift up, straighten your arms. We're going to take those blocks that are handy and just bring your your left hand over to your right side, placing it on a block. And your right hand comes to the hip. Now, what I want you to be mindful of is that that back hip is not moving, so your left hip isn't moving down. You're sitting your hips on a wall. This can be up as high as you like. It does not have to be that low. Okay, just pull the right side of your body back. A nice twist here. If you want to take that last option to take the arm up, reach up and pull back, but it's completely up to you. Bring it back down. We'll switch sides, so you can take that same block or item or use another one over here, and we'll take the right hand on top. This block's going to be somewhere close to the foot or in front of it. Left hand is to the hip, and that back hip without letting it move forward. Okay, so both of your sit bones pressing into a wall. The rotation is coming from your waist. Your last option is to take that arm, sweep it up if you choose. If that feels uncomfortable or not quite right, just don't worry about it. Let's come back to center. So we've got both of those blocks, or maybe something that you can hold on to that's a little more elevated. Now I'm going to take them pretty wide and just shifting. So toes will turn out just a bit toward the corners. Going to shift over to your right side. Just try to keep the foot anchored as you shift over, and then up and then back to the other side. Come back and then up and over. Good. One more. And then back to center, heel toe. So just draw the toes and the heels in, alternating until you come to something that's more of a standing forward bend. Soften the knees, hands above your knees, and rise up to stand. Very good. We're going to take that strap. So a little quick balancing before we come back down. So I'm going to take the strap, whether it's a traditional yoga strap or a scarf or something else that you have lying around that you can take hold of. I like this to be a little wider, such as this, because it gives my foot somewhere nice to cradle. So if that's appealing to you, find something worthy. I'm going to place the foot right down in that strap. Okay. So standing on the right foot, if you're mirroring me, standing on the right foot, putting a strap on the left foot. I want you to find your focal point. So probably not looking at your screen. So maybe just somewhere off to the side that's not moving. As you just put a little more weight on your right side, start to lift up tall, spread the toes wide. Start to bring that left leg up and just hold to your strap on the inside. So if you're holding your strap, hold it to the inside. So this just allows me to put that elbow right by my side waist and to hold the strap here. Okay. So holding on without leaning back. Now if you do need a wall or something to hold on to, that's okay. Stand up tall, send your hips back a little bit. Start to shoot that leg out. Now it may not go all the way, it's okay. So if your leg if you can go completely straight, that's okay. But I want you to be mindful again that you're not kicking that leg out and leaning back with your torso. Okay? So even if it doesn't lift up much or if it doesn't extend very much from your knee, this is fine as long as you're not leaning back. Okay? Only straightening out if you can do so without leaning back. So let's begin to take that left leg out to the left side. Right arm can move out to the right to hold onto the wall or just for balance. So standing hand to foot. Good. Let's take 2 more rounds of breath, finding your balance. It's okay if your balance is shaky or you're kind of moving around, it's fine. Just come back to where you can. Back to center. Bend the knee, release the strap, and set it down. Okay. Shake it out a little. We'll do that on the other side. So finding balance on your right foot. We'll take the strap on the left. Excuse me, I'm going backwards again. We're standing on the left. So just go to the other side. You're strapping your right foot. Bring it up, holding on. Good. Elbow just in close so you're not straining. You're not straining your wrist either. So just kind of, I like to hold it this way. Everybody's gonna be different. But if I do it palm up, then I don't really have to put a big grip on that strap. Okay. Starting to send the leg out to where you can. This elbow tucked in helps me keep this all here without straining the upper body. Arm can go out. Anchor through that standing leg or rotate. Take the leg out. Finding that focal point. Now, if over time you want to take your hand closer to your foot, so if your leg becomes straighter and you want to take your hand closer to your foot, that's perfectly okay. You can even hold on to your foot. I just want you to know that it's not necessary to even straighten it out. You could be here. All right, so let's take 3 more breaths. You've got it. And last 2. Last 1. Come back to center. Bend the knee, release the strap. Set it down. Very good. All right, set that off to the side. We'll come back to the top of the mat. With a big sweep up, inhale. Exhale, forward fold. Stepping back into table. Back into child's pose. Stretch the hips back. Walk it over to the left, right hand reaching again. Back to center. Over to the right with the left hand reaching out. Back to center. Find your way into seated. As we roll it back into seated, taking just a moment here, hands to the floor, just a little lift of your hips. Let's open up that front body. So if you need to make fists, you could even do this on a fist with a straight wrist or up elevated on blocks. Just see if you can lift your hips forward, just for a reverse table. And then bring it back down. Let's do that one more time. So you'll notice I'm keeping a straight wrist. I'm just right on top of the fist if that works for you. Okay. Otherwise, just find something that does. Maybe even a bridge pose would be better. Back down. Seated to the floor, feet wider than your mat. And we go side to side again, just like at the beginning of class. Finding that little mobility. If you want to sit up tall, you could use just your core strength to help you stay here. We'll take 2 more. And last one. Back to center so that the feet are together, knees are out. If you want to sit on your blanket, feel free to do so, just to have that little extra elevation. And we'll move the heels toward the center of their body, the knees moving out, and then coming forward. Baddha Konasana. You could always, once again, always feel free to use those blocks as needed. So if you want your blocks in front of you or something even taller like an ottoman that you could rest your arms on, that's okay. And you take 1 more breath here, coming up. Let's take those legs out long, out to the sides slightly. We're gonna walk it forward one more time. Coming back up. Finding seated, so we'll just find a little stillness in seated today. Unless you prefer to lie down, go ahead and do so, just for the next few moments. So as you lift your shoulders, up, back, and down again, close the eyes, hands resting. Allow the palms face up, eyes closing, becoming heavy, tongue falling from teeth. And as you stay here for the next few rounds of breath, finding acknowledgement of your breath today, your abilities, your movements. As you begin to sweep your arms overhead, palms meeting at center. Hands moving back down to the heart and taking a moment to pause as you bow, honoring your own inner wisdom. Take a moment just sending a thought of love out into the world, maybe a special thought to someone who needs a little extra boost today. As I thank you for showing up, letting me share with you today. Namaste.